The unlit cigarette hanging from Dean's lips felt like a lit fuse. A knot of frustration tightened in his chest, a familiar burn that had nothing to do with tobacco. He tried to wrench his arm free, but the grip was unyielding, iron-like. The frustration boiled into a raw, helpless anger, a desperate urge to smash something, anything, against this ghost from his past. 5 years had sculpted Caleb, adding height and a solid breadth to his shoulders that hadn't been there before. Dean remembered a time when Caleb had dreamed of pinning him against a wall, a fantasy that had always ended in laughter because he'd lacked the strength. Now, Dean had no doubt Caleb could hold him down and do whatever he wanted. A bitter laugh escaped Dean's lips, laced with fury. He insisted that he'd done nothing to deserve this kind of treatment, pointing out the hypocrisy of Caleb accosting him while having a fiancée waiting somewhere. The arm pressing on the back of his neck went rigid. Caleb's voice, when it came, was strained. He confessed that he didn't love her, that it was an arrangement forced by their families, and he started to stammer an explanation about what happened 5 years ago. Dean cut him off, the irritation too sharp to bear. He asked if their entire relationship from the start had just been a way for Caleb to spite his family. Caleb fell silent. He had no defense because 5 years ago those were his own words. Dean felt a wave of self-loathing. He was nearly 30, yet here he was, tangled in the same adolescent heartache he thought he'd left behind. He knew Caleb was only here because he couldn't forget the physical connection they'd shared. And Dean had to admit, no one had ever made him feel the way Caleb did. He tried to move on, had gone on dates, but the thought of kissing anyone else felt like swallowing sand. He tilted his head, the cigarette still in his mouth, and studied the exquisitely handsome young man before him. He'd only learned today that his boss, Marcus Thorne, was Caleb's older brother. Caleb had his mother's surname. He'd been overseas for 5 years, and this opulent party was his welcome home reception. Dean knew that as long as he worked for Marcus, he had no real power to refuse Caleb, married or not. The injustice of it all made him want to burn the whole damn world down. But a part of him, a part that had been dormant and aching for years, stirred. He figured there was no point in fighting and getting hurt. He told Caleb that if he was looking for a release, he should at least let him have a smoke first. Otherwise, he couldn't promise he wouldn't curse him out. Caleb plucked the cigarette from Dean's lips and tossed it into a nearby trash can, his voice low and gravelly. He suggested there were other things Dean could have in his mouth besides a cigarette. A cruel smile spread across Dean's face as he challenged him, asking if he wasn't afraid Dean would bite it off. Caleb's chest pressed against his back, his voice turning into a husky whisper. He said if it would make Dean feel better, he could go ahead. It would be the only one Dean would ever have, and if it was gone, Caleb still had his hands to take care of him. Dean cursed, telling him he was insane. Caleb's reply was a simple, devastating, "I have you in my head." He felt Caleb's hand on his waist, sensing the tension coiled in his muscles. Caleb's voice was softer now, full of a strange sorrow. He admitted he hadn't understood love back then, that Dean had taught him how. He confessed he had genuinely wanted to build a life with him. He promised to make up for the ways he had hurt him, but then accused Dean of throwing him away like trash, of leaving without a word. Suddenly, the blame was on him. Dean's anger flared into a bitter laugh. He told him to cut the crap. If they weren't going to do this, he should let him go. Instead, Caleb pulled him towards the elevator and up to the penthouse suite. He shoved Dean onto the massive bed, his eyes dark with a sorrow that seemed bottomless. He whispered that he'd never been able to hold on to anything he truly wanted. He listed them out: love, money, desire, and promised that whatever Dean wanted, if Caleb had it, it was his. He leaned in, his lips brushing against Dean's. He begged him not to leave, promising to do anything, confessing that Dean was all he had. For a dizzying moment, Dean was transported back to the night he'd found him in a rain-slicked alley in Queens. Caleb had looked at him with the same empty eyes then, detached and uninterested in the world, his gaze always drifting to the window. One evening, Dean had come home late from a job to the overwhelming smell of gas. Caleb had been trying to cook and had nearly killed himself. From that day on, Dean never let him near the stove again. Stocking the fridge with meals Caleb only had to heat up. He had done everything in his power to give him the best life he could, finding new ways to draw a smile from him. Slowly, Caleb had begun to thaw. He started helping with groceries, waiting for Dean by the entrance of their rundown apartment complex. Dean vividly remembered one winter night. The street was quiet, dusted in a thin layer of snow. Caleb stood under the orange glow of a streetlight, bundled in a parka Dean had saved for months to buy him. When he saw Dean, his face split into a grin, a puff of white fog escaping his lips as he called out his name. Looking into his eyes, brighter than any star in the city sky, Dean had felt that all the struggle was worth it. He had thought Caleb was his forever. He never could have imagined that the boy who seemed as fragile as a porcelain doll was hiding something so dark inside. Not until Caleb's family found him. The family's butler had played him the recording. He couldn't remember most of it, but one line was seared into his memory. "Yes, I'm only with him so I don't have to get married." A boy who had everything would never choose a life with someone like him. His sweet nothings were just lies whispered in the dark, and Dean had been a fool to believe them. Caleb's teeth grazed his lower lip. "Dean, promise me," he whispered. "Don't leave me." Dean stared into his eyes, his own heart a block of ice. Love was a ridiculous notion. Caleb didn't lack it, and Dean no longer needed it. As for money and desire, he shifted his hips, and Caleb's breath hitched. Dean patted his cheek, his voice a low taunt. "Plenty of guys can give me that. If you can't satisfy me, I'll kick you to the curb." Caleb knelt on the bed, pulling off his shirt. "You won't get the chance." Despite 5 years apart, their bodies remembered each other perfectly. Hot breaths tangled in the air, their eyes reflecting each other's desperate, hungry images, neither willing to yield. Caleb was still young enough to be reckless, but Dean couldn't afford to be. All he wanted now was to find someone and settle into a quiet life. The next morning, Caleb was still asleep, his arm draped over Dean's waist. Dean carefully lifted it, dressed in the dim light, and left. He sent a short text to his crew chief. "I'm out." The message remained unread. They were probably all still sleeping off last night's party. He dragged his tired but sated body back to his rented room, showered, and collapsed into bed. He was woken by a frantic pounding on the door. He pried his eyes open, his head feeling like it was filled with lead. He staggered to the door and opened it to find Caleb, his face pale from the cold, his eyes bloodshot. Dean blocked the doorway, frowning. He demanded to know how Caleb found his place. Caleb's voice was trembling with a mixture of fear and anger as he demanded to know why Dean's phone was off, why he wasn't answering. Dean glanced at his phone on the couch and realized it was dead. He plugged it in, and as it powered on, he saw hundreds of missed calls from Caleb, with 2 from Marcus mixed in. Caleb stepped inside, closing the door behind him and bringing a gust of late autumn chill into the small apartment. Dean, his head throbbing, managed to croak out that his phone had died. He felt a wave of dizziness and began rummaging through a cluttered drawer for fever reducers. He found a blister pack and went to get a glass of tap water. Caleb knelt and picked up the box, his voice unnaturally panicked. He asked what Dean was taking. Dean glanced at him, explaining it was just Tylenol. Suddenly, Caleb lunged, grabbing his wrist. "You can't take this." His hand was shaking. Dean's head was pounding, his body burning up. He snapped, asking if Caleb preferred he just die from the fever. Caleb pried his fingers open, his eyes webbed with red veins. He explained that the medicine was expired. Taking it would mean a trip to the hospital to get his stomach pumped, and it was a horrible feeling. He promised to buy new medicine, but Dean couldn't take this. Dean rarely got sick and had no idea how old the pills were. He relaxed his hand, and Caleb carefully removed the tablets from his palm. Dean felt too weak to argue and turned to go back to bed, but suddenly he was lifted off his feet. He was too shocked to speak as Caleb carried him. Caleb laid him gently on the bed and pulled the covers over him. He told Dean to wait there. He would be back soon. He took the keys from the nightstand and left. The old, dim light fixture on the ceiling flickered. Caleb's reaction felt strange, but Dean's head hurt too much to make sense of it. Before leaving, Caleb had put a kettle on to boil. Listening to its low hum, Dean drifted off. A short while later, the sharp ring of his phone shattered his light sleep. It was Marcus. He asked if his brother was there. Dean, squinting, confirmed he was. Marcus told him to send him back. Dean rubbed his forehead, saying he would as soon as Caleb returned. Marcus's breathing was heavy on the other end. He insisted that Dean had to bring him back himself, that Caleb couldn't be alone. Dean was confused. He's 24, Marcus, not a toddler. He can get home by himself. There was a pause. Then Marcus said, "Dean, my brother is sick." "What?" The front door opened and Caleb walked in, his arms full of grocery bags. Dean looked at him and blurted out, "Your brother said you're sick. You have a cold too?" Caleb's pupils contracted. He strode over and took the phone from Dean's hand. "I'm not sick. Don't call him again," he said, then immediately hung up. A cool fever patch was placed on Dean's forehead. Caleb knelt by the bed, shaking down a thermometer. He insisted Marcus was talking nonsense, that he was perfectly fine. Dean leaned back against the headboard, watching Caleb's lowered lashes. He told him his brother wanted him to go home. Caleb tucked the thermometer under Dean's arm and carried the bags to the kitchen, announcing he was staying to take care of him. When the alarm on his phone went off, Dean checked the thermometer. 102.5. His old apartment still used a gas stove with a propane tank. Uneasy, he followed Caleb to the kitchen. He asked if Caleb even knew how to cook, half joking that he didn't want the stove to explode. It was just a fever, he wasn't ready to die. To his surprise, he saw Caleb expertly chopping vegetables. When they lived together, Caleb had been completely helpless. Dean had sometimes thought his family had sheltered him to the point of incompetence. Now he watched as Caleb skillfully deveined shrimp. Caleb explained that in the years he was abroad, if you didn't learn to cook, you starved. He was dressed in expensive, designer clothes Dean didn't recognize, standing in the cramped, grimy kitchen. The image was jarring, like a prince in fine silks trying to feed pigs in a sty. Dean couldn't stand it. He walked over, took the shrimp from Caleb's hands, and threw them in the trash. He grabbed a towel and roughly wiped Caleb's hands. Caleb stared, confused. "Dean?" Dean grabbed his coat from the couch, shoved it into his arms, and pushed him towards the door. "I don't need you to take care of me. Put your coat on and get out." The fever had left him weak, but Caleb stood his ground, unmoving. After a long standoff, Dean was exhausted. Caleb pulled him into an embrace, his hand on Dean's forehead. His voice was firm. He said there was no way he was leaving him alone like this. Dean sighed, defeated. He pleaded, telling Caleb his small apartment couldn't accommodate someone of his stature. Caleb ignored him, whispering that he'd learned to make Dean's favorite shrimp and grits. Dean's voice turned to ice as he cut him off. He said he didn't love shrimp and grits. In fact, he hated the smell of shellfish. He only said he liked it because Caleb did. Caleb froze, a look of profound sadness in his eyes, like a stray dog caught in the rain. He asked what Dean wanted to eat now. He would make it. Dean pushed him away and pointed to the door. "I don't want to eat anything. Just go." Without a word, Caleb walked to the kitchen, crouched in front of the trash can, and retrieved the bag of shrimp. Watching his tall frame hunched over the garbage, Dean felt a painful knot in his chest. He'd never let Caleb do anything like that before. Caleb's voice was muffled but determined. "You have to eat. Food helps you get better faster." Those were the exact words Dean had used to coax Caleb to eat when he was sick years ago. Back then, Caleb had only managed half a bowl of soup. To get him to eat more, Dean had added an incentive, one more spoonful for one more time later. Caleb had finished the entire pot, and Dean hadn't gotten much sleep for a week straight. They were young then. Hearing the words now felt like a cruel joke. Dean took a deep breath and pulled him up. "Caleb, having you here is just going to make me sicker." Caleb stared at him silently, his gaze so intense it made Dean's skin crawl. Finally, without another word, he grabbed his coat and left. The moment he was gone, the tiny apartment felt completely empty. Dean looked at the trash can, Caleb's dejected figure flashing in his mind. He laughed at himself. A pampered young master wasn't built for taking care of people. They should have gone their separate ways 5 years ago. What was he still holding on to? He thought that would be the end of it for the night, but an hour later, a knock came at the door, followed by Caleb's voice. Dean opened the door. The kid had the nerve to use his full name now. Dean rolled over, pretending not to hear. If he had known Caleb was about to break his lock, he would have dragged his sick body out of bed to let him in. He stood in the living room, staring at the broken lock on the floor, his head pounding. This time, Caleb had brought bodyguards. "Pack your things. You're moving in with me," he stated, his expression unreadable. "We've been apart for 5 years and 4 months. 1,945 days. At a rate of twice a week, you owe me over 900 times. This time, it's my turn to coax you. You eat a proper meal, I let you off once." Dean crossed his arms, scoffing. "And if I don't go, what are you gonna do? Think you're some kind of tycoon in a movie?" Half an hour later, he and his luggage were being carried into Caleb's car by the bodyguards. Dizzy with fever, Dean sat numbly in the passenger seat as Caleb leaned over to buckle his seatbelt. His nose was stuffy, making his voice sound muffled. He told Caleb he'd have to pay the landlord for the broken lock. Caleb's response was flat. "I'll buy him 10 new ones." Dean turned to look at him. Money really could solve everything. He stared out at the blur of neon lights, unable to figure out what was going on in Caleb's head. "What are we doing, Caleb? What is this?" Caleb started the car. "We're living a life together." Dean exploded. "Cut the crap. If you just want to sleep with me for free, just say it." Caleb's voice was heavy. "You used to say you wanted to make a lot of money." He'd wanted to buy a bigger house, to give Caleb a better life, not one where they had to count every penny just to afford meat a few times a month. But now he didn't care anymore. As long as he earned enough to get by, that was fine. Minor sicknesses he'd treat. A major one would kill him. He had nothing left to live for anyway, no family, no ties. "I have my own company now," Caleb said. I can give you lots and lots of money. Whatever else you want, just tell me, and I'll work to get it for you. I want you to let me out of this car. Any request that involves you leaving me is off the table." There was nothing left to say. After a while, Dean lowered his head, his voice barely a whisper. "Caleb, we're not from the same world. We don't fit." Caleb's tone became instantly colder. "How do we not fit? Our backgrounds, our lifestyles, everything. It just doesn't fit." Dean paused, then delivered the final blow. "Besides, I don't love you anymore." Caleb wrenched the steering wheel, slamming on the brakes and pulling the car to a screeching halt at the side of the road. He stared ahead for a few seconds before turning to face Dean, his dark eyes locking onto him. "What I said 5 years ago, I was wrong. You can yell at me, hit me, whatever you want. I won't even flinch." His voice was low and intense. "But you listen to me, Dean. I am never letting go. The idea of you leaving me, you can forget about it for the rest of your life. So you might as well give up now. It doesn't matter if you don't love me. I'll make you love me again. Even if you were a block of stone, I'd spend my whole life warming you up." His handsome features were cast in the dramatic shadows of the city's nightlife. Looking at this commanding, resolute man, Dean realized that time had eroded the boy he had once cherished and protected. Caleb's face had lost its boyish softness, replaced by sharp, defined angles. The bright, clear light Dean had so carefully nurtured in his eyes was once again clouded by a dark, impenetrable gloom. A sudden, sharp urge to ask him if the past few years had been hard rose in Dean's throat, but the words wouldn't come. He mocked his own presumption. No matter how bad things had been for Caleb, it was still better than the life he could have offered. More importantly, he had no right to ask. Caleb's father was right. He wasn't good enough for him. Dean silently turned his gaze away, unable to look into those eyes. They were a trap he could never escape. When they arrived at Caleb's apartment, Caleb first went to the kitchen and prepared a simple meal for him. Dean was too exhausted and hungry to refuse, finishing a large bowl of rice. Caleb then watched him take his medicine before he started unpacking Dean's meager belongings. He carefully folded each piece of worn clothing and placed it in his own spacious closet. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Dean's eyes fell on a black bomber jacket tucked away in the corner, its rugged style clashing with Caleb's designer clothes. He recognized it immediately. It was his. When he'd left 5 years ago, he'd been in such a rush that he'd either left things behind or thrown them out. Caleb had kept a simple jacket for 5 years. The thought made his nose sting. Caleb noticed him staring at it, his expression softening with a hint of vulnerability. "Aren't you going to say something?" Dean sniffled. "That jacket cost me $50. I really regret not taking it with me." The soft expression on Caleb's face cracked. He gritted his teeth. "I should have known better than to expect anything sentimental from you." The cold medicine had a sleep aid in it, and Dean's eyelids were getting heavy. He lay down on the bed. "That's all I've got. Take it or leave it." He heard some rustling behind him, and then the mattress dipped. Caleb turned off the lights and wrapped an arm around his waist, pulling him close. Dean's body went stiff. "I'm still sick." Caleb kissed his ear. "I won't do anything. We'll have plenty of time when you're better." The sweet boy he first met was gone, replaced by a wolf who had finally shown his true colors. He woke up in the middle of the night, parched. Groggy, he got up to find water, thinking he was in his own apartment. He opened a door in the dark and was hit by a blast of cold air that shocked him awake. Where his kitchen should have been was a balcony. A warm body pressed against his back, and Caleb pulled him away, slamming the balcony door shut. Caleb's voice, shaking, exploded next to his ear. "What are you doing? Are you trying to jump just to get away from me?" Dean was bewildered. He was just getting a drink of water. His voice was hoarse. "Jump? Why would I do that? Only cowards jump." The cold air made him sneeze uncontrollably. Caleb switched on a bedside lamp, tucked him back into bed, and felt his forehead. Dean swatted his hand away. "I'm thirsty. Get me some water." If Caleb was so eager to serve him, he might as well take advantage of it. In the warm, yellow light, Caleb stared at him for a long moment before finally getting up. Watching his back, Dean frowned. Caleb had been genuinely terrified just now. A deep, primal fear that wasn't normal. The thought that Caleb was this scared of him leaving sent a sharp pain through his chest. He had to admit he was weak. Even after everything, his first instinct was to feel sorry for him. The way Caleb had relied on him so completely back then had hooked him deep. Dean's parents had died when he was young, and he'd been on his own ever since. He'd had nothing. When he met Caleb, he thought he'd finally found something that belonged to him, only to be deceived. He was just an excuse for Caleb to avoid his family's plans. This time around, no matter what bait Caleb used, he wouldn't bite. He mentally punched himself in the chest. "Harden up, you pathetic fool." After sleeping all day, he found himself wide awake at night. He rolled over and came face to face with Caleb, whose eyes were also wide open. He hadn't expected Dean to turn, and he looked startled. "What are you doing, staring into the dark? Planning a heist?" Caleb buried his face in Dean's neck, his voice muffled. "I feel anxious, Dean. I'm afraid this is a dream, and when I wake up, you'll be gone." "Gone where?" "It's just a cold. I'm not dying. Now let me sleep." He wished he could force a couple of sleeping pills down Caleb's throat. Caleb sighed. "Even if you run, I'll find you." He fell silent after that, his breathing evening out. Dean stared into the darkness. The person could be found, but how could they ever find the heart he had lost 5 years ago? He couldn't even find it himself. Caleb started working from home to take care of him. Dean spent his days on the couch, watching movies or grabbing a book from Caleb's study when he was bored. The glow of the laptop screen illuminated Caleb's face, and his focused expression was surprisingly captivating. Dean found himself staring, lost in thought, until he saw Caleb's lips, previously set in a firm line, curve into a smile. He quickly looked away. Caleb looked up from his computer, taking off his glasses and rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Sorry, work has been crazy lately. I haven't had much time for you. After I finish this contract, the rest of my day is all yours." Dean ran a hand through his hair to cover his embarrassment, randomly grabbing a book and sitting on the sofa. "Work is important. I'm fine." The book was dense with financial jargon he couldn't understand a word of, so he just stared at the cover. Caleb suddenly laughed. "I'm earning all this money to marry you." The book nearly flew out of Dean's hands. "What the hell are you talking about, you brat?" Caleb's expression was serious. "You might not need it, but I selfishly want to give you the best of everything." He looked at Dean for a long time before asking softly, "Dean, what kind of person do you want me to be?" The question caught Dean off guard. "I just want you to be safe and happy." The words almost slipped out. He bit his tongue and forced himself to say something else. "I just want you to let me go." Caleb's smile was strained. "Sorry, I can't do that. I'm not a good partner. I always seem to disappoint you." Dean opened his mouth, but closed it again. No matter what, they weren't meant to spend their lives together. Caleb had his own path and Dean had his. The sooner Caleb understood that, the better for both of them. There were faint dark circles under Caleb's eyes. He wasn't sleeping well. Sometimes Dean would wake up for water and find him sitting in the dark living room, lost in thought. One night, Dean woke up when Caleb got out of bed. He saw him take a bottle of pills from a drawer in the living room, stare at it for a moment, then swallow too. When Caleb turned and saw him, a flicker of panic crossed his face. "Did I wake you?" He quickly masked his expression with a faint smile. "Work's been stressful. I can't sleep. Just taking some melatonin." Dean nodded, not entirely convinced. "Come back to bed." Lying down, Caleb held him close, whispering in his ear, "Dean, don't ever leave me." Dean clenched his fists and closed his eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about. If you keep bothering me, I'm sleeping on the couch." Caleb went silent, but the arm around him tightened. Once Dean had fully recovered, Caleb had to go to the office for an important meeting. Not long after he left, a visitor arrived. It was the same butler who had come to him 5 years ago and played the recording. He said someone wanted to see him. Back then, Caleb's father had never shown his face, sending only the butler with the tape and the cruel words, "You're not good enough for him." The bodyguards Caleb had left behind didn't dare stop the old man, and they watched as Dean was escorted into a car. The butler took him to a skyscraper downtown. Caleb's father was waiting on the 16th floor. Inside the office, there were no harsh words or accusations. Just a pleasant-looking middle-aged man sitting behind a large desk. The butler had told him the man's name was Richard Thorne. Mr. Thorne gestured for him to sit. He smiled, a practiced corporate smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Dean, I should have met you sooner. It's difficult to admit, but I must say you are very good at raising children. When Caleb came back from his time with you, he was like a different person. He didn't need his medication anymore, and his personality became much more cheerful." Dean's hands tightened into fists under the table. Medication? What was he sick with? He suddenly remembered the melatonin. "Mr. Thorne looked surprised. "Caleb never told you? He has a severe mental illness." Dean's voice was tight. "No, Mr. Thorne gave a non-committal smile. "I asked you here today to tell you that Caleb is getting married to Isabel Vance, the daughter of the CEO of Vance Industries. The Vance family specializes in psychiatric pharmaceuticals. They can give Caleb much better care and treatment than you ever could. You can give him nothing." Dean sat rigidly, feeling like an old machine whose parts had all seized up. Every word Mr. Thorne said was a direct hit, just like 5 years ago. He wasn't good enough. All he could bring Caleb was hardship. He managed to force out the words, "I'll leave." "Mr. Thorne pushed a plane ticket across the desk. "I'm sending you to Chicago. I've arranged a job for you there. Once the wedding is over, you can choose to come back if you wish." It wasn't a negotiation. Whether he agreed or not, he was going. Mr. Thorne would make sure Caleb couldn't find him. Seeing Dean's silence, he added, "You and he are from different worlds. Caleb is meant to have a normal life, get married, have children. Being with you will only drag him down. As his father, I am asking you to give my son back his chance at a normal life." Fighting the sharp, stabbing pain in his heart, Dean said quietly, "Don't worry, Mr. Thorne. I understand. I won't bother him again." He had prepared himself to never see Caleb again 5 years ago. Leaving now wouldn't be any harder. Outside the building, Mr. Thorne's driver took him directly to the airport. Sitting in the departure lounge at JFK, with no luggage and nowhere to go, he felt completely adrift. This time, the separation felt final. They might see each other again one day, but their lives would be on completely separate tracks. Then, through the bustling crowd, he saw him. Before he could hide, Caleb's sharp gaze locked onto him. He strode towards him, but the bodyguards missed her. Thorn had a sign to Dean stepped in his way. Through the human barrier, Caleb looked at him, smiling faintly as if nothing was wrong. "Dean, come home with me." Looking into his shadowed eyes, Dean had 1,000 questions. "What illness do you have? How long has it been since you've slept properly? Is the medicine bitter?" But all he said was, "Caleb, I forgive you. Let's just let each other go and move on." Caleb's gaze wavered, his lips pulling into a stiff, forced smile. "Dean, I don't understand. Why is this happening all of a sudden?" The boarding announcement echoed through the terminal. One of the bodyguards gestured for him to go. Dean took his boarding pass and turned to leave without a second glance at Caleb. A hand suddenly grabbed his sleeve. Caleb's voice was shaking behind him. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have said those things back then. I regret it, I truly do." His voice was laced with the same terror Dean had heard on the balcony. "I know I was wrong. I'll work hard. I'll make lots of money for you. I'll give you everything I own, all my assets. I don't need any of it, please, don't leave me." Dean pried his fingers off one by one. "Caleb, you're not a child anymore. You need to grow up. You have to understand, our relationship started with a lie. It was always destined to end badly." Caleb shook his head, large tears falling onto Dean's hand, searing his skin. He sounded like he was in agony. No, Dean, you can't throw me away." He finally pulled his sleeve free and walked through security. Caleb tried to follow but was held back by the guards. He kept talking, as if this was his last chance to ever speak. "You said you'd be with me forever. You promised you'd spend every birthday with me. Today is my birthday, and you're abandoning me on my birthday again." Every step felt like walking on broken glass. Dean didn't dare stop, didn't dare look back at the eyes he knew were filled with despair and pain. Caleb's voice was raw and desperate. "Dean, just look back at me. Once." His heart had always been soft for Caleb, but this time he didn't turn back. Not even once. Mr. Thorn had set him up with a job hauling construction materials in Chicago. For 2 weeks, Dean worked himself to the bone, from dawn until dusk. He couldn't allow himself a moment of rest, because any free second was instantly filled with thoughts of Caleb. After a month of non-stop work, he earned $2,000. He didn't know what to do with it, so he deposited it into an old bank account. He had originally opened that account for Caleb, to save for his education. When he'd first found Caleb, he was withdrawn and helpless. Dean had figured he needed to learn a trade, so if something happened to Dean, he wouldn't starve. A decent culinary school cost tens of thousands a year. He had worked multiple jobs and had just managed to save enough for the tuition when the butler showed up. He had planned to give Caleb the bank card and a cake for his birthday. It never happened. One day, after unloading a truck and taking a shower, a coworker told him a young woman was looking for him. He couldn't think of any woman he knew. When he saw her, he still didn't recognize her. Before he could speak, she introduced herself. "You're Dean, right? I'm Isabel Vance." Isabel took him to a quiet coffee shop. Without any preamble, she opened her laptop, clicked a few times, and turned the screen towards him. It was playing a series of videos. The first showed a person being held down on a bed by several medical staff while being injected with something. The person struggled, revealing arms covered in scars. The second video showed the same person strapped to a bed, undergoing what looked like electroconvulsive therapy. Afterwards, he curled up, clutching his head and sobbing, whispering something unintelligible. In all the subsequent videos, his expression was one of pure agony. He spent most of his time huddled in a corner, clutching a crumpled piece of paper, muttering to himself. In one video, Dean could finally make out the words he was repeating over and over. Dean. From the first video, Dean's mind had gone completely blank. When the last video finished, the screen froze on an image of the person sitting on the bed, staring at a sunset. Isabel closed the laptop. Her tone was cool and detached. These are observational videos of Caleb's treatment abroad. I only just found out he has severe depression. The Thorns tried to pawn off a madman on me. I want no part of it. She paused. I came to find you because your name is the one he calls out the most. I figure you must be important to him. Took a long time for Dean to find his voice. Why are you telling me this? Isabel adjusted her sunglasses. I want you to show up at our wedding and take this lunatic away. Dean looked up at the polished, beautiful woman across from him, his voice low and firm. He's not a lunatic. He's just sick. Isabel shrugged. You may treasure him, but not everyone does. Even his own father was willing to sell him to my family for a business deal. Honestly, I almost feel sorry for him. Before she left, she gave him an invitation. If you don't come, I'll just play these videos at the wedding. Once Caleb is publicly disgraced and loses all his value, my father will never allow me to marry him. Dean went back to his room with the invitation and sat on the couch in a daze. His entire past with Caleb replayed in his mind, now cast in a terrifying new light. The reason Caleb had seemed so slow when they first met was because of the antidepressants. The reason he'd panicked when Dean took the expired medicine was because he had probably tried to end his own life with pills before. He had tried so clumsily to hide his wounds, and Dean had been completely blind to them. Caleb shouldn't have been left alone. He sat in the dark all night. As soon as the sun rose, he knew he had to go find him. Before he could leave, his phone rang. It was Marcus. Caleb's medical records were leaked to a rival company. Now all of New York knows he has a mental illness. The marriage between the Thorns and the Vances is off. Dean's heart leaped into his throat. Where's Caleb? Marcus didn't answer directly. He took a deep breath. Dean, do you still want him? Dean clutched the phone tighter. What do you mean? Marcus's voice was cold. The Thorn family cannot have a mentally unstable son. My father is planning to have him committed to a psychiatric hospital. If he goes in there, he'll never get out. Dean's voice was hoarse. You'd let me have him? If you take him, he will no longer have any connection to the Thorn family. Marcus paused. But you need to think carefully. His illness will require 1,000 times more patience than you can imagine. You'll have to constantly watch for emotional breakdowns, for suicide attempts. Dean's voice trembled as he cut him off. Stop. Just give me the address. I'll take him. When he arrived at the sanatorium, Marcus was waiting for him. He led him to an observation room. Through the glass, Dean could see Caleb sitting motionless on a bed, his eyes vacant. Marcus looked haggard. He had a violent episode earlier. The nurses just gave him a light sedative. Dean struggled to keep his voice steady. What happened to his hand? Caleb's right hand was wrapped in gauze, with blood seeping through. After a long silence, Marcus spoke. When Caleb was 5, he watched his mother jump from a building. He reached out to grab her, but he was too small. He couldn't catch her sleeve. After that, he stopped talking. By the time we realized something was seriously wrong, it was too late. He was cutting his hands with broken glass. We found out he had severe depression. He was sent to his grandmother's, homeschooled while undergoing treatment. He sighed. This time, when he had his breakdown, he almost severed the tendons in his wrist with a knife. So he had hurt his right hand again. The hand that failed to catch his mother as a child, and failed to hold on to Dean as an adult. If he had just looked back at the airport, would things have been different? He now understood that every time Caleb had begged him to stay, he was begging to be saved. And what had Dean done? What in God's name had he done? Marcus continued, the time you found him, he had just undergone ECT. He escaped from the hospital when no one was looking. What amazed me was that when we found him with you, he didn't even need his medication anymore. Not until you left without a word. His illness relapsed, and because he wasn't raised at home and had this condition, my father never liked him. He had him secretly sent abroad. By the time I found him, he was so tormented in that hospital he didn't even recognize me. One of the side effects of ECT is memory loss. He forgot so many people, but he never forgot you. He would just sit for hours all day holding the only photo he had of the two of you. Marcus reached for a cigarette, then remembered where he was and put it away. I told him he could only see you again if he became normal. Marcus's voice was filled with regret. Dean, it took him 5 years and countless treatments just to stand in front of you again. Dean's eyes burned. His heart felt like it was being slowly shredded. The Caleb he had treasured, who he couldn't bear to see suffer even a moment's discomfort, had been subjected to brutal methods designed to make him docile, to break him. But all he had ever needed was a little love, and they wouldn't even give him that. Dean thought Caleb had everything, but it turned out without Dean he had nothing. And Dean was the same. Without Caleb he was just as empty. He pushed the door open. Caleb sat on the edge of the bed, staring into space. Dean knelt in front of him carefully, afraid to startle him, his voice a soft whisper. Caleb. Tears instantly streamed from the boy's vacant, shattered eyes. Dean felt like his throat was closing. He bowed his head, crying silently. Caleb's gaze slowly focused. He whispered, I thought I'd never see you again. Dean couldn't speak, his heart twisting in agony. To force you to leave, they used psychological suggestion to make me say those words that hurt you. I was so weak they controlled me. I didn't want you to know the person you loved was a madman, so I never told you. He murmured, now I've told you. Can you not hate me so much? Dean nodded frantically. I don't hate you. He had never hated him. He only ever hated himself for not being able to give him a better life. My father was right. I shouldn't drag you down. No matter how hard I try, I'll always be a lunatic who could snap at any moment. You are not a burden. You never were. Dean choked out. Caleb, I'm so sorry. It was his fault. He should have seen it sooner. Caleb tilted his head, thinking, and then a small, sad smile touched his lips. Dean, I love you. This time I'm letting you go. He reached under his pillow and pulled out a manila envelope. These are all the shares in my company. They're yours now. All the good things he had, he'd hidden them under his pillow, waiting for Dean to come so he could give them all away. If there was a God, Dean wanted to beg him to pile all the world's suffering onto his shoulders instead. His Caleb, his good, kind Caleb, didn't deserve any of this. There's also my will inside. It was supposed to be read at my funeral. He looked away, ashamed. Sorry for writing you into it without your permission. Dean's heart stopped. What funeral? What will? Caleb frowned, his expression pained. I can't live like this. It hurts so much. I don't want to forget you. I want to go to sleep with my memories of you. I'm leaving everything I have to you. Dean gripped his arm. No. Caleb looked at his bandaged hand, his voice hollow. I can't hold on to anything. I don't want to lose my memories of you in the end. 2. Dean placed his own hand over Caleb's, covering the bloodstains. I'm right here. From now on, we'll make so many new memories. As long as you'll have me, I'll spend my life with you. Caleb stared at him, stunned. Dean softened his voice, his own words trembling. I don't know how to run a company. The money will run out eventually. You have to get better and work hard to earn money to marry me. Caleb looked into his eyes and said, enunciating every word, Dean, I'm a lunatic. Don't say that about yourself. You're just sick. Caleb's self-loathing twisted Dean's heart. As if to convince both of them, he repeated, really, you're not a lunatic. You're just sick. He had nursed him back to health once. He could do it again. Mr. Thorne had said he was good at raising children. He wasn't. He was just good at raising Caleb because he was Caleb. Caleb was silent, his lifeless gaze like a dead mountain, its weight crushing Dean. Dean leaned his forehead against Caleb's knee, his voice cracking as he forced out the words. Can you, for me, please live? He couldn't look into his eyes, afraid the pain and conflict there would destroy him. After a long time, Caleb lifted his chin. He wiped the tears from Dean's face and pulled him up to sit beside him, resting his head on Dean's shoulder. The warm light of the setting sun filled the room. He smiled faintly. Can you buy me another birthday cake? Hot tears rolled down Dean's cheeks as he nodded carefully. Yes. And never let go of my hand again. Never leave me. Okay. I won't let go. I won't leave. He hesitated for a long moment before asking, his voice small and fragile, can you give me a little love? He was begging his own lover for a reason to live. A dull ache spread through Dean's chest. I'll give you so much, he whispered. Caleb broke down, sobbing on his shoulder like a child. Dean had pulled him back from the edge, but he knew Caleb had sacrificed far more. He had given up on the world, but for Dean, he had rebuilt himself time and time again, just for the chance to see him, to be with him. He had asked what kind of person Dean wanted him to be, thinking that if he could just become that person, Dean wouldn't leave. But he didn't need to change anything. Dean's heart beat for him. Loving him was an instinct carved into his bones. He loved the way Caleb looked at him, his courage, his lonely, beautiful soul. Dean would break himself into pieces to mend Caleb's shattered heart, just so he could live with a little less pain. Caleb's company had a major forestry project up north. They used it as an opportunity to leave New York and move to Aspen. The day their plane landed, a heavy snow was falling. Dean had followed an online tutorial and knitted him a scarf. It was lopsided and ugly, but Caleb treasured it. Gradually, Caleb began to wean off his medication. Even his doctor was surprised at his progress during checkups. On the way home from one appointment, Dean bought him a cake. It wasn't a holiday or a birthday. He just felt Caleb deserved something sweet. He was always afraid he wasn't giving him enough love. Every day he told himself, today, I will love Caleb a little more than yesterday. While cleaning one day, he found the photo from Caleb's medical file. It was creased and worn. On the back were 2 sets of handwriting. The first was old and messy. Don't forget Dean. The second was new and neat, but each stroke was pressed so hard into the paper it was almost torn through, as if written with all the strength he had left. Don't die. Love Dean well. Caleb knocked on the bedroom door. Dean, dinner's ready. Dean quickly hid the file at the bottom of a dresser and tucked the photo into a random book on the shelf. He opened the door and saw Caleb coming out of the kitchen with a bowl of soup, his smiling face softened by the steam. Caleb, Dean called out. Caleb put the bowl down, looking at him with a puzzled expression. Yeah? What is it? I love you, Dean said. Caleb froze for a second, then his eyes curved into crescents, and he smiled softly. Yeah, I know. And Dean realized, with a start, that the dead mountain that had once been Caleb's soul was now, and had been for some time, completely covered in flowers.